daripada kami di RTM.
Israel pummels Sana'a International Airport and power stations. South Korea's opposition files impeachment motion against acting president. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Olivia Nicholas and you're watching World Today. At least 45 people, including hospital workers and journalists, were killed in Israeli strikes in Gaza. At least 5 staff and one of the northern Gaza's last functioning hospitals were killed by the Israeli strike more than 2 months into an Israeli operation in the area.
Head of the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, Hossam Abu Safia, said an Israeli strike resulted in 5 fatalities among the hospital staff. They comprised a pediatrician, a lab technician, 2 ambulance workers, and a member of maintenance staff. At the other hand of the Palestinian territory, the chief pediatric doctor at the Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis said 3 babies had died from a severe temperature drop this week as winter cold sets in. Dr. Ahmed Al-Farah said the most recent case was a 3-week-old girl who was brought to the emergency room with a severe temperature drop which led to her death. Meanwhile, in central Gaza, a Palestinian TV channel said 5 of its journalists were killed in an Israeli strike on their vehicle. According to witnesses, a missile struck the media van while it was parked outside Al-Auda Hospital in Nusayrat. The channel said they were killed while performing their journalistic and humanitarian duty. Gaza Civil Defense Agency said tens of other people were also killed by Israeli strikes, including 13 in a house that was home to numerous displaced families in the west of Gaza City.
Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes pummeled Sana'a International Airport and other targets in Yemen, with the local media reporting 6 deaths. These strikes targeting the airport, military facilities and power stations follow rising hostilities between Israel and the Houthi group.
World Health Organization Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said he was at the airport during the strikes, adding that one of his plane's crew members was injured. Tedros, who was in Yemen to seek the release of detained United Nations staff and assess the humanitarian situation in war-torn Yemen, said he and his team were about to board their flight when the airport came under aerial bombardment. He said the air traffic control tower, departure lounge and runway were damaged in the attack. According to a witness, the capital's airport was struck by more than 3 strikes, with raids also targeting the adjacent Al-Dailami air base. A series of strikes were also fired at a power station in Hodeida. Local media said at least 6 people were killed in the strikes. Houthi spokesperson Mohammed Abdul Salam called the strikes a Zionist crime against all the Yemeni people. Iran's foreign ministry condemned the strikes as a violation of peace and security. The Hamas group also condemned the attack as an aggression against its brothers from Yemen. On a related note, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has denounced the escalation in hostilities between Yemen's Houthi group and Israel, terming strikes on the Sana'a airport as especially alarming. Guterres expressed particular alarm at the threat that bombing transportation infrastructure posed to humanitarian aid operations in Yemen, where 80% of the population is dependent on aid.
The Secretary-General remains deeply concerned about the risk of further escalation in the region and reiterates his call for all parties concerned to cease all military actions and to exercise utmost restraint. He also warns that airstrikes on Red Sea ports and Sana'a airport pose grave risks to humanitarian operations at a time when millions of people are in need of life-saving assistance.
The United Nations Peacekeeping Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, has expressed concern at the continuing damage done by the Israeli forces in the country's south despite a ceasefire in the war with Hezbollah.
The truce went into effect on the 27th of November, about 2 months after Israel stepped up its bombing campaign and later sent troops into Lebanon, following nearly a year of exchanges of cross-border fire. The warring sides have since traded accusations of violating the truce. Lebanon's army condemned Israel's violation of the ceasefire agreement by attacking Lebanese sovereignty and destroying southern towns and villages. UNIFIL said there is concern over the continuing destruction by the Israeli army in residential areas, agricultural land, and road networks in South Lebanon. It noted that this is in violation of Resolution 1701, which was adopted by the UN Secretary Council and ended the last Israel-Hezbollah war of 2006. The UN force also reiterated its call for the timely withdrawal of Israeli troops from Lebanon and the full implementation of Resolution 1701. The resolution states that Lebanese troops and UN peacekeepers should be the only forces in South Lebanon where Hezbollah experts control, and also calls for Israeli troops to pull out of Lebanese territory.
Azerbaijani and US officials believe a Russian surface-to-air missile caused the deadly crash of an Azerbaijani passenger jet, as the Kremlin cautioned against hypotheses over the disaster.
The Azerbaijan Airlines jet crashed near the Kazakh city of Aktau, an oil and gas hub, on Wednesday after going off course for undetermined reasons. 38 of the 67 people on board died. The Embraer 190 aircraft was supposed to fly northwest from the Azerbaijani capital Baku to the city of Grozny in Chechnya, southern Russia, but instead diverted far off course across the Caspian Sea. An investigation is underway, with Azerbaijani website Caliber citing officials as saying they believed a Russian missile fired from a Panzer S air defense system down the plane. The claim was also reported by the New York Times, broadcaster Euronews, and the Turkish news agency Anadolu. However, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that it would be wrong to make any hypothesis before the investigation is concluded. A regional prosecutor said 2 black box flight recorders had been recovered. They will be handed to the Aviation Accidents and Incidents Investigation Division to be examined.
South Korea's opposition has filed an impeachment motion against acting President Han Duck-soo in an escalating row over the composition of the Constitutional Court, which could decide whether to remove his predecessor from office.
South Korea fell in a political crisis when President Yoon Suk-yeol, currently suspended, declared martial law on the 3rd of December. Yoon was stripped of his duty by Parliament on the 14th of December over the dramatic declaration, but a constitutional court ruling upholding the decision by lawmakers is necessary to complete the impeachment process. The court is, however, currently short of 3 judges. While it can go ahead with its 6 members on the bench, a single dissecting vote would reinstate Yoon. The opposition wants Han to approve 3 more nominees to fill the 9-member bench, something that he has so far refused to do, essentially leaving both sides in a deadlock. The opposition Democratic Party therefore said the acting president should be impeached as well. It noted that Han's refusal to formally appoint the 3 judges proves that he does not have the will or the qualification to uphold the Constitution. If the opposition passes the impeachment motion against Han in today's vote, it would mark the first time democratic South Korea has impeached an acting president.
Key members of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cabinet travelled to Florida on Thursday for talks with representatives of US President-elect Donald Trump as Ottawa works to avert a potentially devastating trade war. Newly appointed Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Foreign Minister Melanie Joly flew to Palm Beach, Florida to meet with officials from the incoming Trump administration.
Trump has vowed to impose punishing 25% tariffs on all Canadian imports when he takes office next month. Trudeau has promised retaliatory measures should Trump follow through on his pledge without providing specifics. Trump has said the tariffs will remain in place until Canada addresses the flow of undocumented migrants and the drug fentanyl into the United States. The meeting set for Friday will focus on Canada's efforts to combat fentanyl trafficking and illegal migration. The ministers will brief Trump's team on Canada's new CAN $694 million border security plan, which was devised in response to the tariff threat. The meeting will also address the negative impacts that the imposition of 25% tariffs on Canadian goods would have on both Canada and the United States, the statement added. The statement did not mention who the Canadian officials would specifically be meeting with.
Up next, former Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh dies. Stay with us. Japan Airlines said its systems are up and running again after a cybersecurity attack caused delays to domestic and international flights. The airline said it has identified the cause and scope of the malfunction, and the system has been restored.
Japan Airlines said the large data attack did not leak any customer information and the safety aspect was unaffected. Japanese media said it may have been so-called distributed denial of service attack aimed at overwhelming and disrupting a website or server. The company said ticket sales for domestic and international flights departing yesterday were suspended during the incident but have now resumed. Although the cyber attack did not cause major disruption, the airline earlier said that 24 domestic flights had been delayed by more than half an hour. Local media said problems with the carrier bag check-in system caused delays at several Japanese airports. Japan Airlines is just the latest Japanese firm to be hit by a cyber attack. The country's space agency JAXA was targeted last year, though no sensitive information about rockets or satellites was accessed.
Finnish authorities are investigating an oil tanker that sailed from a Russian port over the suspected sabotage of a power cable linking Finland and Estonia.
On Christmas Day, the Eastlink 2 submarine cable that carries electricity from Finland to Estonia was disconnected from the grid. Finland's National Bureau of Investigation said a probe for aggravated sabotage had been opened into the oil tank Eagle S, which flies under the flag of the Cook Islands in the South Pacific. Director General of Finnish Customs Sami Rakshid said the assumption at the moment is that it was a shadow fleet vessel and the cargo was unleaded petrol loaded in a Russian port. The vessel was en route to port, said in Egypt, and was escorted by a Finnish petrol ship towards the coast near Porkala, around 30 kilometers west of Helsinki. The Bureau of Investigation said its personnel had already boarded the vessel, spoken with the crew and gathered evidence. Police suspect the oil tanker's anchor might have damaged the power cable. Estonia's foreign ministry said dragging an anchor on the sea floor can hardly be considered an accident, saying that damages to critical underwater infrastructure have become so frequent that it is hard to believe they are accidents.
France has handed over its first military base as part of the withdrawal of its military forces from Chad. Chad's military chief of staff said the base at the Faya Lago in the north of the country had been handed over, and it will inform the public about progress concerning the withdrawal of French forces from bases in the eastern city of Abache and the capital, N'Djamena.
It said French troops had left in vehicles for the capital N'Djamena, 780 kilometers to the south, without providing a precise figure. The French military chief of staff said the handover took place in accordance with the calendar and the conditions agreed with Chad. Chad last month abruptly ended military cooperation with his former colonial power, and French troops began leaving the country last Friday, 10 days after French warplanes left. The move comes as Chad holds parliamentary and local elections on Sunday. French authorities said military vehicles would leave by January and be repatriated via the Cameroonian port of Douala. Chad had been a key link in France's military presence in Africa and its last foothold in the wider Sahel region after the forced withdrawal of French troops from Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger in the wake of a series of military coups.
Manmohan Singh, the former Indian Prime Minister whose economic reforms made his country a global powerhouse, has died at the age of 92. Current leader Narendra Modi said India mourns the loss of one of the most distinguished leaders.
Singh was taken to a hospital in New Delhi after he lost consciousness at his home. However, he could not be resuscitated and was pronounced dead at 9:51 p.m. local time. Born in 1932 in the mud house village of Gaza in what is now Pakistan, Singh studied economics to find a way to eradicate poverty in India and never held elected office before taking the vast nation's top job. Singh, who held office from 2004 to 2014, is credited with having overseen an economic boom in Asia's fourth largest economy in his first term, though slowing growth in later years marred his second stint. He also sealed a landmark nuclear deal with the United States that he said would help India meet its growing energy needs.
Police ordered an autopsy Thursday on the body of former Suriname President Desi Bouterse after launching an investigation into the transfer of his remains from an unknown location where he was living on the run to the capital, Paramaribo. Authorities said the body of the Bouterse, who died Tuesday at age 79, had been taken to his home in Paramaribo by unknown people after he had been a fugitive for nearly a year.
Police reported that the body showed no sign of criminal activity, according to a statement released Wednesday night. It added that after coordinating with the Public Prosecutor's Office, the remains were taken for an autopsy to determine the probable cause of death. A criminal investigation is currently underway in which several people are being questioned. Bouterse had been sentenced to 20 years in prison in December 2023 for the execution of political opponents, including lawyers, journalists, businessmen and military prisoners in 1982. He initially left office in 1987 under international pressure, but returned for a one-year term after second coup in 1990. Bouterse, who was later elected president in 2010 and ruled the South American nation until 2020, was a popular figure until the end of his life.
Peru has declared an environmental emergency after an oil spill that triggered a cleanup operation on a stretch of northern coastline popular with tourists.
According to state-owned energy company Petroperu, the cleaning of half a dozen beaches in Talara province is almost finished and work was planned to mitigate the impact on birds, fauna and commerce in the area whose population relies on fishing and tourism. According to an Environment Ministry resolution, the emergency measure will be in effect for 90 days, during which the authorities must carry out recovery and remediation work. The leak was detected last Friday on Las Capulanas beach when the crude oil was about to be loaded onto a tanker. The company, however, did not specify the cause or the amount of the oil spill. The government's Environmental Assessment and Oversight Agency said the leaked oil extended over an area of 47 to 229 hectares. The Public Prosecutor's Office launched an investigation against Petroperu for the alleged crime of environmental contamination that it said had affected the sea and shore along the South American nation's Pacific coastline.
Up next in sports, slowly Wolves add woes to already miserable United. Stay tuned. Kicking off our sports segment this afternoon, Manchester United's miserable season suffered another Boxing Day blow as captain Bruno Fernandes was sent off in a 2-0 defeat at the lowly Wolves. Fernandes saw red for the third time this season early in the season's second half for a second bookable offence.
Wolves took full advantage to make it 2 wins in 2 games under new boss Victor Pereira. Matheus Cunha's goal direct from a corner opened the scoring before he teed up Wang Hee-chan with virtually the last kick of the game. United, who slipped to 14th, have won just twice in 7 Premier League games since Ruben Amorim took charge last month and were insipid in attack even before Fernandes' dismissal. Victory was enough to lift Wolves out of the relegation zone at the expense of Leicester, who visit leaders Liverpool later. The optimism that greeted Amorim's early days in charge already seem a distant memory, as the Portuguese has been left in no doubt over the scale of the task he faces to turn around a fallen giant.
In another match, Curtis Jones fired Liverpool 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League as the title favourites survived a scare in their 3-1 win against struggling Leicester this morning.
Ancelot's side was shocked by Jordan Ayew's early strike at Anfield, but the leaders recovered their composure to equalise just before the interval through Cody Gakpo. England midfielder Jones marked his 100th top-flight appearance with the second goal soon after half-time. Mohamed Salah's 19th goal this term wrapped up Liverpool's 11th win in their last 13 games in all competitions. Liverpool's comeback lifted them well clear of second-place Chelsea, who were beaten 2-1 by Fulham earlier in the day. The Rampant Reds, who hold a game in hand on Chelsea, have been beaten just once in 17 league matches this season. They have won 22 of their 26 games in all competitions in a remarkable run since Slot arrived from Feyenoord in the close season to replace Jurgen Klopp. Klopp led Liverpool to their last Premier League title in 2020, and Slot has them perfectly positioned to emulate that feat in the second half of the season. Meanwhile, Fulham scored twice in the final 10 minutes to end Chelsea's 12-game unbeaten run in all competitions with a stunning 2-1 Premier League win at Stamford Bridge. Substitutes Harry Wilson and Rodrigo Muniz shocked the Blues to secure Fulham's first away win at their West London rival since 1979. Defeat leaves second-place Chelsea still 4 points adrift of leaders Liverpool, who have 2 games in hand over the nearest challengers, starting with a visit of Leicester later on Thursday. Victory lifts Fulham up to 8th level on points with champions Manchester City and within just 1 point of 5th place Newcastle to further their European ambitions for next season. Chelsea boss Enzo Maresca has insisted in recent weeks that his young side are not yet cut out for a little challenge despite their fine form.
In tennis, 2-time Grand Slam champion Simona Halep on Friday pulled out of the Australian Open qualifying and a worn-up tournament in Auckland, citing pain in her knee and shoulder.
The former world number 1, who is working to re-establish herself after a doping ban, was handed a wildcard for qualifying at the first major of the year next month at Melbourne Park. She was also due to play the lead-up Auckland Classic, but the 33-year-old Romanian said on Instagram her 2025 season was on hold. Halep was suspended for doping in October 2022 and returned to the sport in March after having her ban reduced from 4 years to 9 months. Halep last played at the World Tennis League exhibition event in Abu Dhabi last week. The Romanian said she intends to return at her home event in Cluj in early February.
In sailing, favourites Master Lock Comanche and Loa Cornet took the early lead in the 79th running of the Sydney to Hobart yacht race on Thursday, December 26th, as the Supermaxes led the 104 boats out into the South Pacific. Loa Cornet, which won line honours last year in a thrilling finish by just 51 seconds, was first past the turning mark after cannon sounded at 1 p.m. local time.
However, it soon ran into some sail issues, giving race record holder Master Lock Comanche an unexpected advantage. While Thing 100, another Super Maxi, almost capsized after making a late tack to avoid the smaller Celestial V70. Covering approximately 630 nautical miles of the Tasman Sea and notoriously treacherous Bass Strait, the grueling annual race is Australia's premier yachting event. Forecasts were for a fast start in northeasterly winds of up to 20 knots before a through strikes in the early hours of Friday, bringing strong to gale force southwesterly winds. The friendly weather conditions could bring the race record set by LDV Comanche in 2017 of 1 day, 9 hours, 15 minutes and 24 seconds in sight. Sailors will be keen to avoid inclement weather when they cross the Bay Strait as they head across from the mainland towards the island state of Tasmania. 5 yachts were sunk and 6 sailors killed when a major storm hit the fleet during the 1998 race. Meanwhile, 2 sailors were killed in separate incidents in the Sydney to Hobart yacht race, organisers and local authorities said on Friday, the first loss of life in the prestigious ocean race since 1998. Race organisers said in a statement on their website that both crew members died after they were hit by the sail boom, a horizontal pole which holds down the sails and swings depending on the direction of the wind. New South Wales Police said they were informed just before midnight that a crew member of one Sydney to Hobart entry was struck by a sail boom. Fellow crew members performed CPR, but the sailor could not be revived. A couple of hours later, a crew member on another vessel was reported to have been struck by a sail boom and died. Race organisers identified Flying Fish, Arctos and Bowline as the boats where the incidents occurred.
And that wraps up our bulletin this afternoon. A recap of our top story today: Israel pummels Sana'a International Airport and power stations in rising hostilities with Houthi group. Do join us again this evening on TV1 and Salah on Berita RTM at 8:30 p.m. Or you can stream us on our RTM's Clicks versatile and mobile app. Till then, I will live in Nicholas. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching and have a pleasant day.